Donald Trump has said the US Navy will immediately begin a blockade to stop ships from entering or leaving the Strait of Hormuz if Iran sets up a toll to pass through the region, after peace talks in Pakistan ended without an agreement. The president has said he has instructed our Navy to seek and interdict every vessel in international waters that has paid a toll to Iran. No one who pays an illegal toll will have safe passage on the high seas. Also on the programme, the Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer has urged the US and Iran to find a way through after the failure of peace talks, as he also called for the fragile ceasefire to continue and warned against any further escalation. And a massive turnout has been reported in the Hungarian general election that could unseat populist Prime Minister Viktor Orbán, an ally of US President Donald Trump, after 16 years in power.
This is STV News with Alistair Stewart.
Good evening. Donald Trump has said the US Navy will immediately begin a blockade to stop ships from entering or leaving the Strait of Hormuz if Iran sets up a toll to pass through the region, after peace talks in Pakistan ended without an agreement. The president said he instructed our Navy to seek and interdict every vessel in international waters that has paid a toll to Iran. No one who pays an illegal toll will have safe passage on the high seas. Trump also said the US was ready to finish up Iran at the appropriate moment, stressing that Tehran's nuclear ambitions were at the core of the failure to end the war. Trump also lashed out at NATO and Keir Starmer again on Sunday, telling Fox News the alliance was shameful. He also compared Starmer to Neville Chamberlain, saying he made a public statement that we will send equipment after the war is over. That's a Neville Chamberlain statement. The United States and Iran ended a historic round of face-to-face talks early on Sunday without reaching an agreement, leaving the status of the fragile 2-week ceasefire unclear. Iran's first vice president, Reza Aref, said Tehran sought US recognition of its control of transit through the Strait of Hormuz in the Islamabad talks. Iran having authority in the Strait of Hormuz and pursuing compensation for the damage caused by US and Israeli strikes were the rights of Iranian people, he said. This is our firm commitment to a strong Iran, Aref wrote on social media. Vice President J.D. Vance, however, who led the US delegation during the 21 hours of talks in Pakistan's capital, Islamabad, said negotiations finished without a deal after the Iranians refused to accept American terms to refrain from developing a nuclear weapon, something one Iranian official denied. There was no immediate comment from the Iranian delegation, but Pakistani mediators called on both countries to maintain the ceasefire. It is imperative that the parties continue to uphold their commitment to the ceasefire, Pakistan Foreign Minister Ishaq Dar said, adding that his country will try to facilitate a new dialogue between Iran and the US in the coming days. Well, carrying on with that, the Prime Minister Keir Starmer has urged the US and Iran to find a way through after the failure of peace talks, as he also called for the fragile ceasefire to continue and warned against any further escalation. The Prime Minister discussed Washington and Tehran's negotiations with the Sultan of Oman after the two sides' 21-hour session in Pakistan ended without an agreement in the early hours of Sunday. US Vice President J.D. Vance left Islamabad without a deal, pointing to Iran's refusal to commit to not building a nuclear weapon, leaving uncertainty over the shaky 2-week truce. In a readout of Starmer's call with His Majesty Sultan Haytham bin Tariq Al Said, A Downing Street spokeswoman said they discussed the peace talks held in Pakistan over the weekend and urged both sides to find a way through. It was vital there was a continuation of the ceasefire and that all parties avoided any further escalation, the leaders agreed. They also discussed efforts to reopen the vital Strait of Hormuz oil and gas shipping lane, which had been effectively closed by Iran's grip, sending energy prices soaring. Britain will host further talks on reopening the maritime pinch point with a coalition of countries next week. And finally this evening, a massive turnout has been reported in the Hungarian general election that could unseat populist Prime Minister Viktor Orbán, an ally of the US President Donald Trump after 16 years in power. It is a key moment for Orbán, the European Union's longest-serving leader and one of its biggest antagonists. Polls opened at 6 a.m. local time and closed at 7 p.m. Turnout after the first 11 hours of voting was over 74%, according to the National Election Office, a record number in any election in Hungary's post-communist history. With still 2 hours until polls closed, 140,000 more voters had cast their ballot than during the entirety of the 2022 elections. Orbán and his top challenger, Peter Magyar, arrived at separate polling stations in Budapest at nearly the same time to cast their vote. Well, we're having an update from Sky News now, and Teaser, who is Viktor Orbán's former ally, has been projected to win after 15% of the votes have been counted. This is based on 14.7% of the votes being counted. It is still a small number of votes, though the prediction does mirror polling taken in the days running up to the election. Asked earlier this week if he was worried he would lose, Viktor Orbán told Sky News, "We always win." Well, this is just coming through from Sky News now as well. A former Orbán voter says she's fed up with corruption. Outside a polling station in Budapest, a former Orbán voter told Sky News she was fed up with the corruption. Vicky said she was, of course, voting for opposition party Teaser. And when asked why, she said, "I think it's obvious. If it's not obvious, those people are clearly in the wrong." And if you want to keep up to date with the election, then you can go to the Sky News app or our website, itv.com/news. And that is all we've got time for tonight. We will be back as normal tomorrow at 12:30. Nina Hussain will be in the chair for that. Hope you can join her for the lunchtime news. The national weather forecast is coming up next after this programme, but from all of us here on the late team, a very good evening to you. Bye-bye.